Writing for Academic Success in Psychology, Unit 6, APA Referencing and Citation. This video is about 18 minutes long, but if you complete all the tasks, you should expect to spend about 45 minutes on the unit in total. In Unit 5, we talked about summarizing, including synthesis, paraphrasing, and quoting sources, in order to incorporate your reading into your assignments. Every time we use the words or ideas of another person in this way, we need to cite the source of the words or ideas. In terms of the APA referencing style, which is used in the School of Psychology at UEL and in many articles you'll read during your studies, citation involves providing the author and date of publication, plus the page number for quotes and sometimes paraphrases, in brackets in the main body of your assignment at the points where those sources are cited. In addition, a full list of all and only references cited in the main body should be included at the end of the assignment. Lab reports are the same as any other assignment in this respect. There are two main reasons we cite and provide references to our sources. The first is academic integrity. We need to be honest about where our ideas have come from. It's dishonest to either intentionally or unintentionally pass off someone else's words or ideas as our own. If we do this, it's known as plagiarism. The second reason is traceability, to ensure the reader can find and read the sources you have drawn from for themselves. In this unit, we'll focus on how to correctly incorporate citations into your lab reports and other assignments, along with the basics of references in the APA style, finishing up with lots of resources and strategies for learning about and developing effective citation and referencing. So what do citations and references look like? There are several different referencing styles, and as mentioned previously, the style you should use for your psychology modules, unless you are advised otherwise, should be the APA style. In the current version of the APA referencing style, the 6th edition, basic citations will look something like this, with the author's last name or multiple authors and the year in numerals, both enclosed in brackets. Notice how et al. Is used. This is an abbreviation for the Latin et ali, meaning and others. It is used when a journal article has 6 or more authors so that the citation doesn't become too long. It is also used for all but the first time a source with 3 to 5 authors is cited. Notice also how the ampersand symbol is used to link 2 or more authors. This should only be used in brackets and in the full reference list at the end. In the main body of your assignment, outside of brackets, you should always write "and" in full. The reference list for the citations in the sample extract at the end of the article would look something like this. Notice how the sources are listed in alphabetical order by author last name, and how each of these references are formatted in the same way, with the titles of the journals in italics, the title of the article in regular font, and the page numbers listed at the end to show where in the journal each article is located. Note how only the first word of the article title is capitalized, but all the content words are capitalized in journal titles. Different information may be required for different types of sources, but the author, title, and publication year are generally constants, and the use of capitalization, italics, and punctuation remains similar. Because it is standard academic practice to draw on other people's ideas and words when writing articles, textbooks, or other scholarly texts, sometimes the information you wish to incorporate into your assignment might already be a citation from another source. This is the difference between primary and secondary citations. Primary citations are when you cite the words or ideas of the author of a source, rather than anything that writer might have cited in the text. Secondary citations are when you cite the words or ideas of a source that you have read in another source, such as a textbook or in the literature review section of a research article. It is good academic practice to avoid secondary citations as much as possible, and to read, or at least check, the original source if you are going to cite it. Nevertheless, it is also recognized that you might obtain and use information from textbooks occasionally, and especially in the first year of study. As these are generally reliable sources, It's okay to use such secondary citations sparingly, much like quotations in your assignments. The references in the extract we just saw are all primary references, but when you cite a secondary source, such as a textbook, you need to inform the reader that this is the case, and list only the source you actually read in your reference list, rather than the original source. In other words, the sources you list in your references at the end should only ever be ones you have actually read yourself. A secondary citation looks like this, with cited in used to indicate the source of the secondary citation. In the reference list, you would include Robinson 2011 rather than Cote and Morgan 2002, because that's the source you read. There are two main ways of incorporating citations into your assignments. The most common method is one we saw in our sample extract, where a statement is made and the citation or citations placed in brackets afterwards to indicate the sources for that statement. Note that the author's initials are not included in the citation, multiple quotes are separated by a semicolon, and there is a comma between the author and year. The citation is also placed before the full stop, because it belongs to that sentence, not the next one. The same goes for commas, when a citation is part of a list, for example. Note in this example how the citations in each case are placed before the comma. The other main method of incorporating a citation is by mentioning the author directly in your sentence and placing the year immediately afterwards, in brackets. The key thing to notice here is that the author's names actually form part of the sentence, while the year is now an aside, in brackets, on its own. Your sentences should always make sense, even after any information in brackets is removed. Let's practice this. The following examples of citations have all been incorrectly incorporated into the sentences. Can you work out why in each case? Pause the video to complete the task, then restart for feedback. Feedback. In 1, if we remove the information in brackets, we are left with "It has also been demonstrated by that the global dimension is a correlate of poor self-reported health." This clearly is not a complete sentence, so the authors need to be part of the sentence, with only the year in brackets. In 2, the ampersand has been used in the sentence, not in brackets, which is incorrect. The ampersand should be replaced by "and." In 3, the citations have been placed after the comma and full stop. This makes it seem like the first citation belongs to the second point in the sentence, while the second citation isn't part of the sentence at all, and even seems to constitute its own sentence, as there's another full stop after the citation. So in both cases, the citations should come before the punctuation. In 4, the author's initials have been incorrectly included in the citation. There are occasions when an author's initials may be legitimately included, such as when there are two different authors named E.G. Smith, and you have cited them both, so it's necessary for clarity to indicate through their initials exactly which Smith it is. However, this occurs very rarely, so your general rule should be to not include the author's initials. Finally, in 5, Bennett and Elliot has been left outside of the brackets, but doesn't form part of the sentence, making it unclear. This is almost the reverse of the mistake we saw in 1. What information is included in the references at the end of your assignments and how these are formatted all depends on the kind of source you have. There are textbooks, journal articles, e-books, web-only articles, news articles, legal statutes, websites, and nowadays videos, podcasts, TV shows, and social media such as tweets or blogs. The list is almost limitless. This means that actually learning and memorizing how to write out full references for all these different kinds of sources would be a mammoth task, and perhaps not the most productive use of your time. Of course, the majority of what you read is likely to come from textbooks and journal articles of various types, and it would therefore be useful for you to learn the referencing conventions for these kinds of sources. However, it's possible that you may want to cite less common sources on occasion, so it will be crucial for you to identify relevant resources and develop effective strategies for using them to look up the conventions for different types of sources, as and when you use them in your studies. There are numerous resources on the internet that can help you to do this, including a range of publisher and university referencing guides to the APA 6th style, plus the online style guide and blog of the APA. I highly recommend this APA style blog, especially for referencing conventions for digital media such as ebooks, YouTube videos, and other online sources. You can just search by keyword or browse their category cloud to obtain the information you need. The APA also publishes a full and concise manual of each iteration of the style, with sections on how to reference all the different types of sources you may encounter, and several copies of these manuals are available to borrow from the library. A selective list of links, online resources, and books you might try using for this purpose is available on the English for Psychology blog, and there are other resources in the Psychology Skills repository. Finally, there are lots of reference or bibliographic management tools such as RefWorks, Zotero, and EndNote. These tools allow you to create a library of all your sources, and using a plugin in Microsoft Word will generate correctly formatted automatic citations and references for you. UEL students get a free license for EndNote Web, also known as EndNote Basic or EndNote Online. There's a guide to setting up your EndNote account and getting started in using this tool on the English for Psychology blog, if you're interested in giving it a try. Let's now take a look at one of these referencing guides in more detail, so that you can understand how to use them to reference correctly. Enter Sydney University Guide to the APA into Google to find the link to this APA 6th guide. Then read the section In-Text References on page 1 of the guide, in order to answer the review questions on citation following in this video. Pause the video now in order to find the source and download it, and then continue to view the questions. Here are the questions. Pause the video now in order to answer them. Here are the answers. Number 1. The answer is author last name, year of publication, and potentially page numbers. Number 2, the answer is no. Number 3, when referring to a specific part of a text rather than the source as a whole, when citing the location of a citation in a secondary source, when quoting directly, and it's also recommended for paraphrases. Number 4, the answer is double. And number 5, the answer is the source you read, i.e. the secondary source, not the original. Like summarizing, academic integrity and effective citation practices start with effective note-taking. Before you start reading and making notes on a source, it's good practice to identify the full reference and note how this should be formatted in the APA 6th style, as well as what your in-text citation should look like. If you have a source that you don't know the details for, follow steps 1 and 2 first. If you already have the details, you can skip straight to step 3. Step 1. Work out what kind of source you have. If you don't know what the original source is, copy and paste a sentence or two from the source into Google or Google Scholar, enclosed in double quotation marks, and see if it finds the original source for you. But if you can't find out what the original source of a text is, don't use it in your assignment. Step 2. Locate the information you need about your source. Follow the trail from Google or Google Scholar, or look on the covers or first few pages of books and other hard copy texts, or PDF versions of such texts. Look for the authors, publication years, article titles, journal titles, publishers and the towns or cities they are based in, web URLs, and DOI numbers, which are like permanent web links to the original sources that don't change and look like this. Alternatively, as soon as you know the title and preferably authors, you can look up the source in the UEL Library Catalogue or WorldCat, which is like a worldwide online library catalogue. The vast majority of published texts that are not web-based, i.e. books, e-books, journals and e-journals, DVDs and so on, should be catalogued on this site, and it will often provide most of the information you need to write up the reference correctly. Once you have the necessary details, step 3 is to look up the format of APA 6th references for the type of source you have, using the APA blog or any other APA guides you find online or in the library. This will tell you what information you need to include in the reference. Note that sometimes you might need to repeat step 2 after this step if you find you don't yet have all the information you need to write the full reference. Step 4. Write up the full reference according to the guidelines you have used. Pay attention to which elements are included, the order of elements, and punctuation, as well as italicization in the full reference. Optionally, in a separate notebook, you can make a log of the type of source and the form of the reference, so that if you need to cite a similar type of source again, you have a quick and easy way to look it up. On your tablet, OneNote would be good for this. Once you have written out the full reference, you're ready to take notes on the source. The only other thing to remember is to note page numbers when writing up notes. Ensure that if you paraphrase or quote any text in your notes, you note the page number so that you can then cite it correctly if you use it in your assignment, and thereby avoid plagiarism. Let's try steps 1 to 4. Using the extracts of the 3 texts given below and Google or Google Scholar, follow step 1 and 2 to find out the original source information for the texts. You may want to download a copy of the transcript so that you can easily copy and paste the text you'll see in the video into Google. Then, using the APA blog and/or the Sydney University Style Guide, follow step 3 and 4 to work out what the full reference should look like and write it down. If you want, you could also have a go at writing a log entry for how to reference each type of source. Pause the video to complete the task, then resume for feedback. Feedback. So how did it go? Here's what you should have come up with as the full references, correctly formatted in the APA 6 style. Source A is a journal article. Note that it is recommended in the APA guidelines that if you can find a DOI number for a source that is available electronically, you should include it. Otherwise, this reference looks like any other journal article reference. Source B is a book. Book references are generally simpler, but must include the city of publication and publisher in that order and separated by a colon. This information can always be found on the page of books, which looks like this, usually in the first few pages. Source C is a blog post with a named author. Note that the full date is included, rather than just the year, more like a newspaper article. The web URL is given in full, prefaced by retrieved from. There is also no full stop at the end of the reference to avoid confusion about the URL. Finally, the title of the blog itself is not part of the reference, only the title of the blog post. So hopefully this has given you an overview of the basics, along with some resources and strategies for ensuring you can cite your sources appropriately and effectively in your writing. Remember, if you can't find the answer to a question you have about formatting references or citations, or anything else about the APA style, you can email me at k.bannister@uel.ac.uk and I'll see what I can do to help. Also, check the blog for posts on APA style and referencing.